Welcome to another episode of Becoming a Techno Wizard. And today we're reading information architecture once again. It's been a while, so sorry. No excuses, I've just been slacking. I ain't gonna lie, I've been doing a lot. Right? So for those that don't know, I had my first paid talk called the Black Ignite Talk. So it was an Ignite talk, it was 5 minutes, 20 slides, 15 seconds per slide. That was hard to do. I took my entire journey up to this point, this whole becoming techno wizard journey, my entire life, and I tried to crush it down to 5 minutes. It was hard. It took 2 weeks, 22 pages of notes, 6, 7 different versions. Right, it was hard. I'm gonna lie. So that's mostly what I was doing for the last 2 weeks, and that's done. It should be up on my page whenever they send out, those clips. And very excited to have done it. It was very interesting, stressful, but it was extremely fun and engaging. But we're back at it with these videos and things like that. And I've been reading a little bit of this book in that time. So we're right now on this content mapping section. I think I left off somewhere talking about these other sections, which were interviews, content analysis, looking at different ways to break down your data and all this other stuff. Highly suggest going to read this book yourself. But here we go. We're going to continue starting from here. Content mapping. I'm going to start my time because I don't have very long. Here we go. Content mapping. Heuristic evaluation provides a top-down understanding of an information environment's organization and navigation structures, while content analysis provides a bottom-up understanding of its content objects. Already, this is why this book is so great. A heuristic evaluation provides a top-down understanding of information of the environment, while content analysis provides a bottom-up understanding of its content objects. So for top-down, basically, if I'm understanding that correctly, it's looking at everything that's already on your page, right? And trying to break it down, right? Looking at your big goals, your big kind of message that you're trying to send, and breaking it down by seeing if people can go to where you want them to go. Like for instance, if you expect people to be able to access a certain piece of information by going to this specific navigation menu, right? Heuristic evaluation allows you to see if that's possible, right? If people do that, if people go to that maybe through tree testing or something like that, right? If people go through that specific flow that you mapped out, versus content analysis is a bottom-up approach, meaning you look at all the content that you have, right? Look at all the blogs you're trying to make, all the news articles, podcasts, white papers, whatever your company or your organization or yourself has, right? And seeing what each of those things have in common, what is different about them, what do they talk about, their titles, metadata, all that stuff, and figuring out how to bring all of that together to form a navigation structure around it, or some type of structure around it. So yeah, I like that that difference there. Now it's time to bridge these two perspectives by developing one or more content maps. A content map is a visual representation of the existing information environment. See figure 11-4, we'll go there in a second. Content maps are typically high level and conceptual in nature. They are a tool for understanding rather than a concrete design deliverable. That's interesting because in my experience, which is not much, we kind of are taught, right, that content, or really sitemaps, right, or maybe that's the difference. Maybe content map is something different than a sitemap, because I've been talking, sitemap is going to be, your really that's like the beginning, the end of information architecture in a boot camp. And that's what that's some of the things that some of the many areas I'm realizing, my own education has fallen through the cracks. And it's not just my boot camp. Like I talked to a lot of people that went to different boot camps, or even college graduates, right? One of my friends, he went to a good design school and they weren't really taught information architecture, right? Sitemaps is pretty much the most information architecture most designers are taught, right? And so we're going to see how this differs. So here we go. Content map. You have content sources. So the different, organizations or different functional areas: marketing, customer support, legal. You have your content model, That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, because the marketing, right? They give you the content about the product. Customer support gives you content about the process. Also related to the reference, which legal usually gives you. Content types, which is contact handling and system how to. Okay, I can see that. In content templates, which is the steps, I guess the steps to take for accessing the or to use the content, and the table. Okay, a table of content, of course. Interesting. Yeah, so this is way different than the sitemap. This is way different than sitemap. A sitemap is literally just your site, right? And you just show where all the pages go. But this one is it's kind of like an organizational structure, right? It gives you a good idea of where all your information is coming from, via the content sources, what they're giving you, what it consists of, and all this other stuff. And I can see this being useful because, like I said earlier in the book, it's a lot of politics, right? It's a lot of communication that goes in hand with getting all this information. You have to talk to all these people in your organization to understand, what needs to be done, what needs to be on the page, and why you should be on the page, and where it should go, and all this other stuff. It's not just slapping some information on the page, slapping some content on there, and you'd be like, okay, whatever. No, like you have to figure out, what all the needs, all the priorities are, all the maintenance of the information and stuff like that. So yeah, this is pretty cool. Small slice of the content. Oh, that's only a small slice. So yeah, they probably break that down, right? Because if you have a whole bunch of sources, right, a whole bunch of functional areas, each team might have different contents they give you. They might have different content models. They might interact with each other in different ways, different content types and templates. So yeah, wow. I can see how that's just a slice. Content maps vary widely. Some focus on content ownership and the publishing process. Some are used to visualize relationships between content categories, and others explore navigation pathways within content areas. The goal of creating a content map is to help you and your colleagues wrap your minds around the structure, organization, and location of existing content, and ultimately to spark ideas about how to provide improved access. That's nice. That's nice. I'm gonna have to use this because I could use right now. I'm working on a couple of things. One is with the Open Metaverse Interoperability Group, OMI group, and we're trying to build a website, right? But some things we're finding is that it's basically a nonprofit, it's a open source, community, and there's hundreds of people there. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, what should be the main information that we put on our page? And we've been struggling over the last couple of weeks of getting all this information and figuring out what to prioritize, where to put it, and all this other stuff. So something like this could be helpful. And I definitely want to try to use it. Yeah, I'll report back on that soon. I'll say next week is when I'll do the first kind of rough draft of it. I'll probably do it live so I can be accountable. So let's say next week I'll do a video of making a small little content map, or maybe one of these other ones, depends. I'll go back over and see which one's the most relevant for our current thing that we're trying to do. But I think I can do a video about that. It's all open source, so I'm sure they'll be open to or okay with me doing this on my videos here. Benchmarking. We use the term benchmark informally to indicate a point of reference from which to make comparative measurements or judgments. In this context, benchmarking involves a systematic identification, evaluation, and comparison of information architecture features of the stuff in your information environment, such as websites, intranets, or apps. These comparisons can be quantitative or qualitative. We might evaluate the number of seconds it takes a user to perform a task using competing websites, or take notes about the most interesting features of each site. Comparisons can be made between different websites, competitive benchmarking, or between different versions of the same website before and after benchmarking. In both cases, we found benchmarking to be a flexible and valuable tool. For competitive benchmarking, you borrowing good ideas, whether they come from competitors, friends, enemies, or strangers, comes naturally to all of us. It's part of our competitive advantage, as human beings. If we were all left to our own devices to invent the wheel, most of us would still be walking to work, right? And this is why copyright is a goddamn let me not get on all that. But for intellectual property, is stupid. However, when we take these copycat shortcuts, we run the risk of borrowing bad ideas as well as good ones. This happens all the time in our field. Yeah, like let me just talk about this real quick, because the Android, right? The whole Google design thing, it's kind of a mess. I'm sorry, but I know I'm new to design, but as I've been learning about design and looking at these, design kind of documentations, and I'm like, yeah, some of it makes sense. Don't get me wrong. A lot of it actually is pretty good. But for instance, the biggest thing, like, I know this is probably their old stuff, right? So granted, their new stuff is kind of better, even though they don't follow it that much. But the hamburger menu is a great example of this. All right. Everybody says, oh, the hamburger menu, everybody uses it, right? But it's terrible design. Like it's a bad idea. And people use it all the time because it's easy, right? It's an easy way for you to hide your entire navigation on a mobile device. The problem with it is that it's extremely inaccessible, right? So not only is it inaccessible, but it's also difficult for most people who are not tech savvy to know what it means, what it does, right? The only reason people even know what it is because of past association, right? It's because so many people have copied the idea. And so people look at that and like, oh yeah, Google uses it, all these other apps use it, therefore we should use it, right? Therefore there's no problem with us using it. Wrong, right? It's a copycat shortcut. It's easy to do, but it's a bad progress. Why? Because you're hiding away your navigation in a place where people have no idea to look for it, right? So if people didn't know what those 3 bars meant, where would they go to access your site? Like, how would they know what was on your site? They would just scroll through and like, okay, what else, right? How would you know? The only reason why it works, sort of, is because of past association. But when you're working with people who are not tech savvy, who are not familiar with mobile devices, or don't use, mobile devices very much, it's still a problem. Even to this day, 2021, what has been 10, at least 10 years since it's been introduced, and it's still a problem. That's why you may have seen some sites start using the word menu, right? Some even have completely different navigation systems set up for mobile devices, where it changes, the structure of your website so that you can easily see, what's available on the site without having to click into a different menu. And apps like with the bottom bar, right? That's why so many of them started using that. But the ones that use both, it's doing too much. You already, you didn't learn a lesson. But yeah, definitely copycat shortcuts. That's terrible. Since the pioneering days of website design, people have repeatedly mistaken large financial outlays and strong marketing campaigns as signs of good information architecture, right? Careful benchmarking can catch this misdirected copycatting before it gets out of control. For example, when we worked with a major financial services firm, we ran up against the notion that Fidelity Investments' long-standing position as a leader within the industry automatically conferred the gold standard upon its website. In several cases, we proposed significant improvements to our client's site, but we were blocked by the argument, that's not how Fidelity does it. Oof, I've heard that so many times from all my designer friends. Oh, this is not how we do it. We've done it for this long, for so long, we're going to stick with how it works. It doesn't work. All right. And what's sad about it is that it's kind of like the virus problem, right? You don't know how many people you're missing, right? Like the same problem with virus or any kind of disaster. If you take good measures or good design, right? If you take measures beforehand to fix the problem, you will never know how much of a crisis that you avoided. But if you don't take that, right? If you don't take those precautions and you go through that disaster, then you think that disaster becomes the new norm, right? So for example, with websites, a lot of websites struggle with having like 1-2% conversion rates. 1-2%. That means 1 out of every 100 people that come to your site will convert, right? And a lot of marketing kind of funnels are built to improve that conversion rate by 0.5%, maybe even 1, maybe even up to 3% conversion rate. I know design friends who can bump that up to 20%, 30% conversion rate. 30%, like that's in 1 out of 3 people, you know? And the reason is because they actually understand customers, right? They actually took that, they did that, the work to understand how to make that site actually make sense to most people who are going there, right? So you can easily see if, so they can easily see if that site is right for them and why it's right, what they can do, all that other stuff, right? It's just so sad that you hear this all the time. Like you could be getting, 2% conversion rate because you think you've been doing it for so long, you think that's the industry standard, and because everybody copied you, everybody else gets 2% conversion rate or 1.5 because they copied you and they're not the original, right? So they get just as little about a conversion rate. So you think this is normal, and then somebody else does it right and they get 30%. Then what? And then you get disrupted and get, yeah, okay. Anyways, to be sure, Fidelity is a major force in the financial industries and the financial services industry with a broad array of services and world-class marketing. However, at the time, the information architecture of the site was a mess. It was not a model worth following. To our client's credit, they commissioned a formal benchmarking study during which we evaluated and compared the features of several competing sites. During this study, Fidelity's failings became obvious, and we were able to move forward without that particular set of false assumptions. The point here is that borrowing information architecture features from competitors can be valuable, but it must be done carefully with consideration of context. Might have to end this a little bit. Before and after benchmarking. I guess I'll end it here. Well, no, I can probably do this last bit. Benchmarking can also be applied to a single information environment over time to measure improvements. We can use it to answer such return on investment questions as how much did the internet redesign reduce our employees' average time finding core documents? Has a website redesign improved our customers' ability to find the products they need? Which aspects of our redesign have had a negative impact on user efficiency or effectiveness? Before and after benchmarking forces you to take the high-level goals expressed in your statement of mission and vision and tie them to specific measurable criteria. This forced clarification and detail or orientation will drive you toward a better information architecture design on the present project, in addition to providing a point of reference for evaluating success. Yeah, a lot of redesigns kind of make the site worse, and it's probably because they didn't do benchmarking. The advantages of before and after benchmarking include the following: identifies and prioritizes information architecture features in the existing environment, encourages transition from broad generalizations, such as our site's navigation stinks, to specific actionable definitions, such as the label of this link should be updated because our testers didn't know what it meant, right? Very practical. Creates a point of reference against which you can measure improvements. On the other hand, competitive benchmarking offers these benefits: generates a laundry list of information architecture features, bringing lots of new ideas to a table. Encourages transition from broad generalizations, such as Amazon's a good model, to specific actionable definitions, such as Amazon's personalization feature works well for frequent visitors. Challenges embedded assumptions. We should be like Fidelity, and avoids copying the wrong features for the wrong reasons. Establishes current position with respect to competitors and creates a point of reference against which to measure speed of improvement. Very, very great. Very awesome. I like this section so far. Unfortunately, I have to go, but thanks as always for listening. Let me know what you learned and what you thought about this section of this book so far. Highly suggest checking it out. I want to do these videos more regularly again, so gonna get back at it. And thanks as always. Have a great day. See ya. Bye-bye.